Hey, I'm Sonia Renee Taylor, founder of The Body's Not an Apology, and this is day 7 of my ruckus. I think I'm off a few days or something. Like I feel like or day 6 actually. It's day 6, and I missed doing a video yesterday, so I'm gonna do one this morning. Um, I'm in my backyard. It's sunny out. It's amazing sometimes how peaceful it is here, and then sometimes how completely chaotic it is here, and it can change in a second. So it's trippy. I didn't do a video yesterday, and like yesterday was a really great example of sort of the peaks and valleys that this process is bringing for me. This ruckus, which is really about like healing the manifestations of neglect in my life, in the way that I have been neglected, in the way in which I neglect myself, and how that shows up when I ask um, for care, and then how I conflate things that are not related, like asking, asking my community and people in the world to donate $80,000 to build an online platform for radical self love. And that actually is just what I'm doing, is like raising money to build a website. That's at its core, it's that simple. Um, uh, at its simplest state, that is what it is. But that's not what it is in my head and in my heart and in my body. And I constantly have to go back and remind myself that that's all it is that I'm just trying to raise some money to build a website. But oh, there's a hummingbird. I love it when the hummingbirds visit. They come to my garden a lot. Um, I think they're my mama visiting. Anyway, hi, Terry. Anyway, I have to really do a lot of work to disassemble that story, and to make it not connected, because in my brain it's really connected. And so yesterday I had a nightmare, probably the worst nightmare I've probably ever had. And in the dream, I was driving at night, and I was like leaving a friend's house, and I was driving down MacArthur Boulevard. And if anybody's ever watched my posts or you follow my Facebook page, then you know MacArthur Boulevard is the street directly behind my house. And it's home of a lot of violence and a lot of desperation. There are, you know, murders happen there pretty regularly, shootings happen really regularly. It's dangerous. And so generally, I just don't drive on MacArthur anymore. Uh, and since I started hearing shootings at 10 o'clock in the morning and at 2:30 in the afternoon, I recognize there isn't really a good time to be there, and so I just don't drive on MacArthur. But in the dream, I drove down MacArthur at night, like late night, like 11 o'clock, and then I had to be stopped. I like for somebody was coming toward my car or something, and it made me have to stop the car and like get out and walk. And I was pretending like I was, like walking, just leisurely walking, but these people were following me. It was like a group of 6 or 7 guys. And then as I went up the MacArthur transformed to like some stairs and a wooded area, which reminded me of an area in behind my grandmother's house uh, when I was a kid, and she lived in the projects in Pittsburgh. Um, my grandma Johnson, and so my mother's mother. And so I was going up the stairs, and 4 of the guys broke off, and 2 kept following me, and then they were chasing me, and I was running, and then they cornered me, and then the one guy, he was light skinned, and he had a goatee, and he had a baseball cap and a red jersey on, and he started talking to me. He was saying something awful. I can't remember what it was, but I do remember that it was not good. And then he put his hand against my cheek like this, but he had razor blades between his fingers, and he slit open my face, and then told me he would kill me if I told anybody. Then the dream transformed, and the stairs turned into a different sort of set of stairs and a different public housing complex that my family used to live in. And if a lot of people don't know that most of my family on my mother's side lived in public housing in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so, um, there are these different scenes, but they're all in the projects. And And so I was walking, and then my mother was in the dream. And this is part of what made it so fucked up, is that my mom was in the dream. And this is like Terry, old Terry, which means like she was probably like crack addicted in the dream. She appeared to me as that, right, as addict, as in her addiction. Um, uh, but it was her voice and her face, right? And so there was this part of me that was so grateful to have my mother's voice and face, even though she was like, in her worst state. But she was walking with me along with some cousins and family members, and she was telling me that we were walking to my uncle's apartment but last night my uncle in this dream had been murdered along with his daughter and her three children. I don't know which uncle this is. My mother is the youngest of 13 kids, and so I don't know, and I don't even want to start thinking about like who in my family has a daughter and three kids, like whatever. It's a dream. But in the dream, she was telling me that the night before, my uncle and his daughter and her three children were all killed in the apartment we were walking to. And I don't know why we were going to the apartment, but we were fighting. We got there, and like there wasn't enough. We were sleeping there, and we were talking about the murderer who was still at large, and maybe he was going to come back. And there were people in like who were with us, but there wasn't enough beds, so there were some people sleeping outside on mattresses. And then I woke up, and it was just fucking awful, awful, awful ass dream. And when I'm thinking about, I sat down and talked to a friend about it yesterday, and it did give me some insight in the sense that what I think was going on, I realized it just got really light, um, is that, right, this process is so much about me walking through really scary places, right? Walking through, like, where I am right now, like MacArthur Boulevard represents, like, where I am right now, and the fear, I think, um, like there's a fear about being here, right? Like there's a fear about where I live. There's a fear about like staying in this space and not moving to the next level. There's a fear that moving to the next level is going to cause me a lot of pain. And so of course I'd be cornered, um, you know, like and cornered and inflicted with pain in the process of trying to run from this place, right? Metaphorically and literally. And then the other part of the fear in this process is the fear, um, like the historical fear, that like, so, my mother in this dream would have been, you know, my mom when I was a kid. Um, and so like that's when a lot of this neglect trauma and those sorts of things came up. And so what what I'm seeing in the dream is that I am um, in terror of the circumstances of my childhood that I'm trying to escape, um, and that I'm trying to get out of, or I'm trying to go back and heal. Actually, is what it feels like. And through this RUHCUS process, I'm trying to go back and heal those things. But there's damage, right? There are bodies there, um, and and there's an uncertainty if the things that cause that trauma are going to still be there when I visit it. And so I think some of those metaphors are in that dream last night. Um, yeah, I keep being baffled at how intense this process is turned into being. Yesterday, I went to my first DA meeting. For those who don't know, that's called Debtors Anonymous. I know it's really assuring to know that the person who's asking you for a lot of money is going to Debtors Anonymous. Not because I run up debt and have credit cards. I don't even have any credit cards. I'm anti-debt in that sense. But what I do have is a fear of taking care of myself, which shows up in not being the best steward of my own resources, and being vague about like what I have and what I don't have, um, and I feel like this is a place for me to practice healing the spiritual things that have created that vagueness and that fear and that self-neglect that I often engage in. And if I'm going to ask people to invest in this process, then what my responsibility is to be a good steward of that investment, which means I got to heal my shit. It means I have to take care of me and the parts of me that are still living in trauma. And I'm really committed to doing that. I often say if I can't say anything else, like I do look at me and work on me. I swear I do. Um, and so like I see where I'm not where I want to be, and so I'm gonna fix those things. And that's what this ruckus is about. Is before I ask anybody to do, you know, all this investment in this vision, I need to be invested in being the best steward of this vision that I can possibly be. And so I'm taking on the work that's part of the ruckus. Um, I also talked to uh, family yesterday, and that's always hard for me. Part of this ruckus is that I've committed to talking at least twice a week to people in my family, um, and my family struggles a lot. Um, there's a lot of stuckness. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of mental health issues. There's a lot of stuckness. There's also a lot of love, and a lot of trying. Um, but it's hard sometimes to to just walk into that, and so I have to be intentional about connecting. And so I'm going to keep doing that because I feel like that's part of this journey too. Um, all right, I am going to sign out because this video is really long. I'll edit it. I promise I won't make you all watch all 12 minutes. Um, Today, I'm going to have a show tonight. Oh, poems. Oh, that's. We'll talk later about my relationship with poetry as of late. But we are past the $10,000 mark, and it's feeling amazing. This ruckus is part of this Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign, When We Say Yes. I am saying yes to my own personal healing, and I am saying yes to the belief that when I live in my personal healing, um, I have the capacity to usher other people into theirs, and to hold this vision for a world of radical self-love. So if you feel inspired, donate at When We Say Yes at Indiegogo, www.igg.me/at/when we say yes. Bye, guys.